A three-man booth again, and back to normal this week as we break down the usual Raw and SmackDown shenanigans. How have the WWE carried on following an unreal SummerSlam card, and are we already looking ahead at potential Mania matches? This is the Golden Shovel Podcast, your weekly roundup, all things WWE storytelling. Let's get into it. This week, once again, joined by the full gang. Roscoe, how are we doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. This will be an interesting week because we had a short SmackDown, even by SmackDown in the UK standards, and a
praise the Lord.
Interesting Raw, but maybe not for the right reasons.
Interesting is not the word I would use, but
and I am joined by the guy who I spent an inordinate amount of time with last week on this. Daz, how are we doing?
Yes, it's good to be back. Don't worry, we're getting rid of the developmental talent next week. We'll be running a two-man band one more time.
Big part-time Ross is back to being a casual.
Yep.
We're going to get straight into it. But for me, this was a bit of a I don't know if underwhelming week is the correct term.
It's a reset week, isn't it?
Come down.
It was a reset after what was a ridiculous SummerSlam and a wee sneak peek into what's coming later in the week or next week is we're finally spinning off the end of the show into its own podcast. Episode 1 will either drop this Saturday or next Saturday. And come and join us in that one because one of the PLEs I'm going to talk about is rooted firmly in my biggest issue with what's happened in the last week at the WWE, which I will start teasing tonight. Daz, I'm throwing it straight over to you on SmackDown. Ross mentioned it there in the opening segment, so before we go into any actual matches, the 2-hour SmackDown, we thought it was going to be good, but I feel like the stuff that we've complained about in SmackDown the last few months, it's almost getting worse just because there's nowhere for it. Exhibit A being, what is the plan with the women's mid-card division on that show?
Yeah, that's why I called it the reset week. I think we're seeing a lot of storylines, and especially on SmackDown side of things, come to an end. It's SummerSlam week, and we are trying to build foundations for something new. Starting with the women's mid-card division with the tease with Julia backstage. Giving her a manager is an interesting angle for me. I don't think she needs a manager to be over with the fans, so I'm intrigued to see how that plays out. I don't know who it's going to be. I think Jade Cargill's a bit of a swerve, although I've spoken about it multiple times on this podcast. She's not ready to be world champion, so running a feud with a brilliant worker like Julia is probably a good thing for her. Well, nice to see Solo and his band of merry men do something a little bit different this week, outside of the Jacob Fatu side of things. So MFT is something that I know we're going to talk about out of the very short SmackDown. So I like the work that MFT are doing. They still look a bit lost in terms of what's actually going to come of this stable for Solo. I think the picture is clear. They're moving towards being a tag team. I think that much is clear. So, and Motor City Machine Guns was an interesting matchup on Friday night. It was not what I was expecting when I was watching SmackDown on Friday. So, I was surprised at how easily they went over against Motor City Machine Guns because they've been on the receiving end of a few losses recently, and I thought maybe they'd picked up that one. So they must be moving them into the tag division. Probably, as we've spoken about, a few tag teams are ready to move on into Raw and freshen up that division. So I'll be honest, it's probably one of the two talking points in terms of actual matches on SmackDown. But before I move on to the other tag team division, I suppose I'll throw it back to you guys. If you get anything to say about MFT.
I mean, I put in again backstage TGS Unreal that we're calling it. We don't script this show, but we do throw it a quick. Here's how we have the topics we have to talk about this tonight, kind of thing, on a Tuesday morning to allow us to watch Raw and make sure we're on the same page. Having spoken about SmackDown the weekend, and almost number one, this is it working as a stable? when I had that in my notes on Saturday morning, my answer was no. I didn't see the vision. Having watched SmackDown back, I'm with you. I kind of see it, but I feel like they're one of the groups and one of the areas and one of the segments of the show that is suffering from the cut back to 2 hours. I feel like in an ideal world, both shows would be 2.5 hours with the 45 minutes of adverts, right? I know that every Saturday morning when I look on Netflix, I see an hour and 20 minutes, and I know we're getting at least 15 minutes of Cena just talking. Not this week, to be fair, we got a match, which was interesting, but we usually get a 15-minute promo segment. And knowing that we get usually a relatively long entrance for MFT and some sort of interference in whatever match they're participating in, it feels as though I can already account for something like 20-25 minutes of SmackDown from those two areas alone, and I feel as though that hurts MFT. It wouldn't hurt them as much when it was a 3-hour show. I just feel as though it takes up so much time, and I feel like that was the issue at SummerSlam, as you talked about last week, Daz, in the cage match, where whether they were cut time, whether that was what they were allotted, the interference took up too much in the match.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
And I do see, like, I feel like we discussed, didn't we, Ross, earlier in the year, that we thought Solo could get lost in a shuffle. He's re-emerged as, like, this is the character. It's like it's not a heel, it's not a face, it's just like, this is Solo Sikoa having a bit of fun. They can't afford to lose that now. That's my issue.
It is my concern when you have a stable around him who do not even like really speak, and it's just how he is the face, but then you just have these sort of hangers on. It's one of the reasons why we kind of got annoyed about Seth Rollins' stable, but maybe something's happening there because they're actively trying to put the spotlight on the other guys in it now. They're starting to do bits and bobs. That makes the whole thing more believable when eventually that stable is no longer a thing, because, you know, I cannot imagine that Solo Sikoa is going to be in this stable from now until his retirement. That will break up at some point. And I think that's what this is missing. You kind of need one of these guys to be allowed to step into the limelight, I think. Otherwise, we may eventually just get a little bit, like, almost forgetting that they're there, which is odd when one of them is about 7 foot tall and you can't miss him. But that's the concern I have.
The big guy 7 foot is going to be fine. It's the rest of them that Tangaloa, especially, I think if you Google his highlights for Japan, it's not particularly bra. And I'm also pretty sure that when you look at even his debut, I'm pretty sure he missed his cue, didn't he? And the referee had to kind of throw himself at the ring rather than be pulled from making the 3 count. So I don't worry about the guys though. I worry about them dragging Solo down. I don't worry like Tama Tonga and Tangaloa. Right? See if he disappeared tomorrow, I'd be like, fine, who cares? Solo's your guy.
Would you even notice?
Nah, you wouldn't notice.
I think I can see the long-term booking for them though. I think I can see the vision and what we're trying to build here, because
future endeavoured in a 5-year contract in the other place.
Also, it's interesting that that's the third time I've used the vision already since it's been copyrighted. No, I think that what we're actually going to get here is, I think this might be the SummerSlam feud. I think it might be Solo and the MFT versus the White Six. I think that's where this is headed. And I think it's the perfect
Survivor Series.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect feud at War Games, especially for Solo and Howdy. I think that's a perfect mix, because it keeps the MFT and Solo separate, but also keeps them in the same kind of storyline. And it's just on your point, Ross, about they don't talk, it's exactly the same as Reigns, but you just don't notice it because Reigns had Heyman.
Aye.
And you just don't know, like, Reigns barely spoke through his entire tribal chief run, but you didn't notice because it was such a good mouthpiece. And Solo is great on the mic, but you do notice that he's the only one that speaks. So that is interesting.
Can't stress enough, based on what you said there as well, that it'd be really nice to see a War Games / Survivor Series type match that was existing stables, not just forcing two teams.
Yeah, forcing brands to just become
in the last
teams.
few years, like with the Judgment Day team, which was great, and then we had a team of the biggest faces in the company, which is like, alright, but then the guys have to go back to feud with each other.
100%.
So this would be. I was actually going to mention that when you said we've got a tag division. I was like, right, okay. In my head, I'm going, like, let's try and tie that into the War Games because that would make so much sense. Which brings on to the next point, the Sami Zayn vortex. It was Montreal, put him in the card, that's fine. But in my opinion, I would have put him in against anybody else other than Solo Sikoa because it just goes back to this whole. And it was the thumbnail a few weeks ago. In fact, it's the thumbnail. It's the last thumbnail that I have saved for the pod, just as a basic thumbnail, not the exported version that I can then delete and move things about because I'm using the same background every week to try and get a bit of branding. And every week I just click on it and it says, "Are we stuck in a?" the bit of text says, "Are we stuck in a bloodline vortex?" And I'm like, and the Sami Zayn's fighting Solo Sikoa on Friday Night SmackDown for just a one-off, which was fine, but I felt like they could have done something else there. I've just got in the notes up here. What is the actual plan with Sami Zayn? Like,
there is no plan.
The thing 3 months ago seemed to be that they were going to try and keep him out of the way and potentially have a Rumble win. And I feel as though that any momentum he had, you can't have him in the Rumble now. And
he's
I know
too good for the mid-card division, but he's not good enough for the main event.
I don't think he's not good enough. It's just he can't be the underdog for 10 years. He's probably on $3 or $4 million a year. He's one of the top guys in the company. He can't play the under. He's no longer an underdog. Like, you can't be on the main roster for like this long and be an underdog. It's impossible.
They're probably, don't get me wrong, right? This is probably looking too much behind the scenes. There's probably a slight political element to keeping Sami out of the spotlight, given his very pro views against all this MAGA and Make America Fit Again stuff that the Fed are doing with Trump's administration. So
possibly
there's a lot going on there, and it's kind of, you know my thoughts on Sami Zayn, and I'm not going to go over them again and again because it'll only annoy Adam. But I didn't see the point in Sami pinning Solo. You could have put him against anybody else. I don't see why your US champ's got to take the L on a one-off. If it was going to be a feud, I get it. It starts a feud, but I don't think it is. For me, this is probably very controversial. I would write Sami off TV for a little bit and bring him back when you've got a plan, because it's pointless having him on TV if you don't have a story for him, because it just makes him look silly.
I'm not going to come to Ross on any of the political elements because we'll be here all night, but we'll just touch on it, even though it's a Monday Night Raw story. The whole Karrion Kross Sami Zayn thing, it's not. I just don't see it as a work. I just don't think Kross is good enough. He's like, there was no shouts for him, no chance for Monday Night at all. I think people were like, yeah, it was good fun while it lasted, but
it's also too close to the R-Truth situation for them to try and work the fans like that again. Because if they do it again, it then becomes every single time somebody gets moved and their contract expires, it's a work, and you spend your time waiting on them coming back. Never been a fan of Kross. I replied to Jey Wrestle Talk earlier. I was chatting away in his chat and just saying that in the right feud with the right person, he's compelling and believable outside the ring. He can sell a story. As soon as the bell goes, I'm totally unconvinced by his work, which is a shame because he had some really good matches in the past. But if you're going to get in the ring with Sami Zayn and you can't put on a show, you're not good enough. Problem. Because the level of competition he's got in that mid card, especially on Raw, is here. And if you can't put on a show with Sami Zayn, he's just not got it.
He should have pulled the trigger on Kross reclaiming Sami Zayn, turn Sami Zayn full heel. But that would have worked. Just make him a manager.
Definitely 100%.
And it would have worked. He could have worked tag matches and worked in and out, but just don't. As you say, he can carry a feud up until the bell rings, and then we've got a problem.
And I think that's the test he got. He carried the feud until the bell rang, and Sami should be carrying the feud when the bell rings. And their matches were lackluster, they were boring. Just never got me going at all, because on paper, it's a feud that should work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%, which we've said before is not always the case. Speaking of feuds that don't work, we had the issue with Charlotte and Tiffany earlier in the year, and obviously Charlotte's moved over with Alexa Bliss in this tag division. You alluded to earlier, Daz. Ross, when we come to you on this, we've thoroughly enjoyed. This is arguably Charlotte getting back to her best. It's just a bit of fun. We like fun, we like chaos. My only concern is this was very much Festival of Friendship on Friday night,
actually.
and I really feel that these two should hold these tag titles for 6, 7, 8, 9 months and really establish them as like people chase them, like as because if they pull the like they'll turn on each other at some point. And there'll be a great single feud out of that, but that's
I don't know if I can take another Festival of Friendship breakup. Jericho and Owens almost broke me. I'm not kidding.
It needs to be different. It needs to be done differently. I'd be happy if they done it in the Rumble. See if there was like a Rumble when they just says let's fight each other, tag partners, and then took each other out. That would be fine for me. But I feel as though this is a post-Mania feud next year. This is a feud that can carry smaller PLEs and smaller and build up to like a SummerSlam match next year.
Question is, who can they build that with? Because they don't have a lot of competition.
I think you've got to look to NXT for that, which is why I'm asking Ross, because I feel as though that's where you're. I've said for weeks that should be the women's mid card.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a bad idea.
To have two mid card titles and the tag titles. Sorry, Ross.
You could have those titles just move around, as we'd all speculated would be a really, really good way of doing it, and these two could just appear because you see it when someone appears, like Chelsea Green, for example, appeared on NXT recently. When a superstar drops down, even for just like one episode, the crowd marks out, and you mark out when you're watching because you just don't expect it. It's fantastic. Yeah, my only concern with it is that they've done the tease more than once about them breaking it up. I hope it's to do the tease a few times so that when it doesn't happen, you forget about it and you forget that they're not friends. Maybe eventually they stop wearing the not friends t-shirts and then everyone just settles in, and then when they do turn, it will actually be a big moment. So, but yeah, like these two are great. We all love them. Give us more of them. That whole spot with the cake was just downright hilarious. I loved every second of that segment. It was great. It was a very short SmackDown, but that particular stood out to me as that was just fun from start to finish. That's what I want.
That's the issue with the short SmackDown though. That's taking up too much time from what is a 1 hour 20 minute show, and I'm enjoying just wee things like Charlotte calling Alexi. I just think it's funny. Like it's just.
People say that kayfabe's been broken way unreal. You've got wrestlers calling each other first names.
But it's not one of the ones that's like, it's one of the ones that if they did it every week in every feud, it would be a problem. But
this one, it's fine.
It's fine. Don't do it for a while, then use it again next year. Fine. Is the risk here that ultimately we've talked for weeks that Tiffy's reign's just stale, and realistically your two biggest stars in your women's roster on SmackDown are currently tag team partners and champions, and ultimately you might want one of them to either run a really good feud with Tiffany or be your champion, because Alexa or Charlotte taking a title from you protects you, doesn't it, long term?
Oh, 100%. And we spoke about it before the Trish Stratus match, where Tiffy's time was up. Tiffy time's up. I like it. But then she put on a good show, and then we thought when Cargill was booked to the moon through Queen of the Ring, we thought maybe time's up, and then she retained again. Who's she wrestling in Paris?
No one yet.
I
had the card up a minute ago. 2 seconds, I'll get it back up.
We don't have her feud yet, because I know she was backstage with the tease with Jade again. I don't think it will be Jade.
I don't think she's going to have a match in Paris.
I would be shocked, personally, if she never. But again, we spoke about how stacked that card is and how many they're going to need to fit in. So she'll probably maybe defend it on the Friday night. Maybe defend it on the SmackDown.
Possibly.
But yeah, so I don't really know if there's a viable contender in there to take the title off her. Are we just waiting for the shuffle? Move some people about, maybe get some fresh blood in there. I'm not sure.
The big issue with the shuffle is there was a really obvious calendar spot for it, and they've now added this PLE in Indianapolis that's yet to be named for September. So in my head, I was thinking Clash in Paris, like a 2-week type shuffle, happens over a period of time, and then you've got a month to build towards Survivor Series / War Games, and you've now got that new PLE in there, which we're already penciling in at least 3 matches to that, probably.
What I would like them to do with that PLE is what they used to do on the actual drafts is pit it show versus show, and the winners of the matches get X amount of picks, and then do it on the Monday Night Raw following the show. Because obviously John and Brock are slated to main event it, so you can't have John or Brock win and then Adam Pearce marches down to the ring and says, I'm drafting and so for SmackDown, but do it on the Raw after. It needs the shake up, and it needs to come soon for that women's division in SmackDown, because Tiffy's only real challenger right now is Jade Cargill, and we know Jade Cargill isn't good enough. Unless you want to give Jade Cargill the mid-card title and push Julia to the moon. I'm fine with that, personally, but
fine with that.
I don't know.
The only issue with that is that Tiffy's reign's stale, not just in the ring, it's stale overall.
But again, I think that's just lack of having somebody compatible with her.
I think so. And obviously she's at least with what I've seen this week, she seems to have, trying to get the right way to put this, but she's been showing off. She's obviously been a bit of a training regime, and you look at her and you go, yes, that is my world champion, that is who should be carrying the title, and looks ridiculously insane.
Not
that she didn't before, but like, the issue isn't with her, it's the way the division's been booked this year, and I think she should drop it and go back to the NXT type character. Not that it's Tiffy time, the kind of the me girl Center of the Universe type character she had, which is like, I've said it before, it's the same character but you accentuate different parts of the character, and it's not a heel, but it's more heelish. Like, to me, she's a natural heel. She just got over as a face because she was so good when she was called up, the crowd were on her side, and that's fine, that's great, but
she fits the Mandy Rose perfectly. When Mandy Rose had her two in NXT, it's a perfect type of stable for her, where she just is the it girl. She's got two on her side. It suits her.
100%.
We just need to be able to put that together, and SmackDown's women division doesn't have it.
And at that point, we have, which is a shame because we've really enjoyed women's wrestling this year. Like, massively, it's been phenomenal, and the SmackDown one has delivered on occasion. It's so far behind the Raw division, in the same way that we see the tag divisions on the flip. It's SmackDown so far ahead of it. Final talking point for SmackDown was obviously we got a John Cena match on SmackDown. Decent showing. Obviously, a way to write off Cody for a few weeks, get the beating. It would appear that we're going to get Cody versus Drew in Indianapolis, which still surprises me because I don't think they would leave Drew off a European card. Ross, I'll come to you first on this because I know Daz and I have similar thoughts. What's your thoughts on getting John Cena versus Logan Paul in a couple of weeks' time?
I think it would be great. Like, I listened to the pod that you guys really put an awful lot of time and effort into. That was some epic you played last week, and when I was listening to it, I felt the same. I think that would be an excellent feud because it's very easy to spin it. It's not hard to get it to work in a storyline, then just boom, chuck it in a match, and we'll all have fun. I think it would be good, especially because one thing that was alluded to last week when talking about SummerSlam was that Cena's taking his time, but that match is obviously up there as one of his greatest. And then you see him go again, you're like, right, he's hit his stride now. So he can do matches like that. Like they two, and it would be fantastic. I think anyone would love to have that on their card. Actually quite looking forward to Clash in Paris. Hopefully it will deliver. Because
see what the other three matches on the card
first. Dare I say it? Right guy, wrong time.
No, I actually think it's the right guy at the right time. And the reason I say that is it's the perfect feud for John to rebuild himself as babyface. And I know he doesn't need it because he's fucking John Cena. And he's
the crowd immediately fell into line. Have you noticed this?
He was over as a heel. For the last 2 months of his heel run, he was being cheered in every arena he went to. But I think that putting him in with the ultimate heel, the ultimate shit talker, is just the perfect way to re-establish him. We're going to get a wee bit of back and forward because Logan's excellent on his promos. Logan has spoken on Impulse. I don't know if you've watched the Tiffany Stratton episode, but
I've seen that.
He wants to do some more full-time work. He's asked to be on the Japan tour that's coming up. So I think we're going to see a lot of Logan. We'll leave that for a senior face there, so we'll leave that for another.
That'll be interesting.
Mike on Impulse will be saying it was shadow banned for Japan. He's not allowed in.
See if music hits things out with the Shrek hat on.
If he comes out with a hat on, I'll pop.
I know.
But yeah,
Okay.
I think it's the right person at the right time. I don't know whether I believe this or not that John's picking his opponents, because he's quite clearly denying that he picked Lesnar. I think he's quite clearly vehemently
he's
denying
distancing
that.
himself from
I
that.
think it'd be fair to say he was probably asked who would you want at the start of the year, and he probably had Lesnar on the list, even if it was like, I know it's probably not allowed, and somebody just went, like, they've pretty much created a PLE just to have the match, and I'm fine with that. I don't know how I feel about this one, because I feel like it's leading to ultimately Drew versus John at some point as well, but I don't think John's got enough matches left for that, especially if we think it's Drew versus Cody in Indianapolis. I think it's going to be a good 3 weeks on SmackDown, because it's just going to be fun. It's just going to be a bit chaos, a bit of fun.
That's what I was looking forward to most. I think that the outside of the ring work for these two is going to be as good as it is in ring. I did say that last week on the pod, so props to you for sticking it out, Ross, because it was an absolute slog last week.
Honestly, great. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think that Cena has hit his stride. He's putting on like that match 10 years ago, which should have been too much for him to wrestle the following night. At his age, to then go out, take a bit of a beating first thing, and then have the main event tag match. Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm in for this feud. You know, everybody knows we're hot on Logan Paul. I'm just interested to see what comes beyond it, because I'd like to see Drew versus John, but we've already spoke about it. He initially had 8 appearances left, 3 PLEs, and 5 shows on Raw.
We've got
Now we've got 4 because we're adding a PLE. So is he just doing an extra date?
I think he's doing extra dates.
He's just going to add an extra date in.
I think extra dates.
Like, of the announced dates that he had, there was 3 that weren't accounted for.
That's what they were saying. He had 5. He had 5 matches. Well, he had 5 SmackDowns basically to build 3 matches.
The only good thing is that him versus Brock needs no build. They could just turn up on that day, fight, and that's it.
And I've got a feeling that's probably what's going to happen.
Aye. I feel like
Brock. It's a perfect crowd to bring him out to, because he'll not get the heat in Europe that he would have got in the US as well.
John's going to carry SmackDown this month, and then when Cody goes back and John buggers off for a month, it'll swap over, and then John versus Brock can be done through social media. It'll be fine. I did ask you about thoughts on the announced matches for Paris, so there was only one actually officially announced, but if as we suspect it's Drew versus Cody in Indianapolis, we are homos. I am a huge Drew McIntyre fan. I think he's been underutilised. It's the same thing that we said about Kevin Owens at the start of the year. About every couple of years, it's like these are guys who get themselves to a position where they're basically undeniable. They need to be world champion because that's the level they get to and operate at. And then it's like, well, yeah, but you don't fit the Mania card, therefore we're just going to feed you to the champion. You lose again. Like
Drew Cody is right guy wrong time.
Yes,
it's too soon, and Cody's run to be wrestling Drew. I
think so, especially because to me I feel like they've already penciled in who they want Cody to fight in Mania. Whereas in my head, I'm like, if you were saying like, it could be any one of these 4 or 5 guys, Drew's on that list. And that's where I was asking about the Logan Paul thing. It goes back to why we all assumed that Cena wouldn't drop it at SummerSlam, because we felt like it needed 1 more month for the time to match up better, especially having now announced this PLE.
Yeah,
because it's like you've now got another opportunity where Cena could have dropped it.
I think the perfect booking for Paris would have been just pair him with AJ Styles. It's AJ's swan song here. Stick him in France where he's loved. Let him put on a show, and ultimately Cody retains. But I think it's too early for Drew. It's not believable that Drew can win the title.
And it buries.
It doesn't bury him, but I don't think he can be buried in a European, especially in a European crowd. I don't think he can be buried.
It's not buried him, but it's like
the other option is Logan Paul costs Drew the title. And it builds their feud, because they've had this back and forward.
Well, that's the feud I called for last week.
So maybe that's where it goes. I don't know. But Drew just can't win the title for Cody because it's too soon, unless they actually want to do a bit of hot potato with a world title. And they just can't date to Rollins. So maybe they'll do it to Cody. Don't
know. Which wraps us up pretty nicely on SmackDown. It's definitely struggling with the timing.
Just needs a lift.
They need to figure that out, especially with such a defined roster, i.e. these are the titles for this show and these are the titles for that show. Going to Raw, Monday Night Raw, I thought this was a really poor episode. I'm not going to lie.
So worse than a few weeks, definitely.
It's and you know what's really interesting. I saw a friend that's listening or watching for the first time. Dad is usually the guy that's working the Twitter page. I think somebody was asking, in fact, maybe on TikTok actually, was asking people who are underutilised, and you mentioned Chelsea Green, you also mentioned Penta.
That was TikTok, yeah.
Aye, it was TikTok. There's like half the Raw roster, I feel like, are just, I keep using the word vortex, but just sort of there floating about. Like, Penta got himself so over, but it's like, yeah, we don't want you to be world champion, so you just need to lose for 6 weeks and then we'll figure out what then. LA Knight's the same to an extent.
I have thoughts on Penta as well, just in that kind of conversation you're talking about. Yeah.
And we'll maybe get to that at the end of the show, just because I think they're going to get. We will. I know we're going to get there. So the first question I'm going to ask is the Naomi situation. Now, I believe there's a video getting about online of her face planting came off a scooter. So I guess there's a potential for a head injury or a concussion. There is a lot of people asking the question, could she be pregnant? This is a strange one because they're going to have to do something. Because if it's
on the pregnancy thing, right? Because like she's been so present on social media, right, throughout her title reign. She's been excellent on social media. She's not tweeted in 3 days, right, which is obviously concerning people. See, the more I think about it, all she tweets about is big gym and sexual context all the time. Have they been building that these two have been trying for a baby? Are they like putting that out into the world?
That I think she mentioned it,
and they gave her the
I don't think
title.
It was mentioned on Real, but it was mentioned on some sort of podcast recently that like at some point at the end of this run, she was going to have to consider if this was her last chance to have children. So it is. I think that's where the 2 and 2 is getting 4 from. Is that this is what's happened.
Because even if it's a head injury or a concussion,
extreme. If it's a head injury or concussion, you're already asking the question. She probably won't be fit for Paris.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what I was going to get to next.
See, if she is pregnant, she can wrestle for a certain period of time. You just need to work safely, right?
It's hard to do.
I was listening.
I don't think
earlier.
TKO would take that risk in the same way that he would have previously.
See if you look back to,
was it Karma that wrestled until she was like 6 months pregnant?
Aye, but this is why it's so interesting on this conversation. When I was out with the dog this morning, just doom scrolling, I got like a 2-minute TikTok clip, and it was the audiobook of Becky's book, and she was talking about the night she announced she was pregnant and how she was getting pissed off. I think I've all heard it where basically it was all the old men were trying to tell her what to do, and she's like, "No, I just want to get there, do my announcement." Blah blah blah, do this bit, and then she pitched to Vince, and Vince went, "That's better than what we've planned. Let's do that." And she was something like, I want to say 7 or 9 weeks pregnant, but they'd been planning the segment for like a month at this point. They knew that the Money in the Bank was going to be for the title, so she'd have been 4 weeks pregnant when they announced, when they knew.
It's really risky.
That's very, very early. So I don't think. I think if
I don't think they would work it in this day and age. Definitely don't.
I'm going to assume that the regular drug test and medical testing probably flags this up, even if it's not a test. So like, if
there would have been a change in hormones or something like that, you'd have been able to see it through testing. Definitely,
they picked up the piss test. So I'm going to assume that if she is, then that will be it. And I think how they do the pivot will be really interesting because.
Well, she's meant to be wrestling Vickers. Are we just going to get a vacant title? They'll turn Vickers' title shot into a triple threat or fatal 4-way, and just put 3 feet, and then we can have qualifiers again.
Oh yes, we love qualifiers.
So this is what I'm going to get to. The biggest risk in that is like so they must have known 2 months ago whether Stephanie's champion or not champion at the end of this month, or at least had an idea, right?
They would have an idea where they wanted to go, 100%.
So if she's going to be champion, it's probably not Rhea or Io in that match. If she isn't going to be champion, it probably has to be Rhea or Io or both of them. But I feel we're just repeating the same match over again. That it's just a bit an interesting story how they manage it. I do think if Naomi is pregnant out for a while, I actually think it helps their storytelling because I feel like they always had a plan for Naomi to have a run, drop the title. It would have been Rhea or Rio carrying towards Mania, etc. But I feel like Naomi's done such a good job that you can't take it off her because she deserves to be the world champion. I know that sounds like a horrible thing to say, like, oh yeah, she's pregnant, great, problem solved. But
what about Bayley? Because Bayley said this, I've not been booked on this show, I've not been booked on this show. Just waltz into a world title match with Steph Kerr and pick up the title, let Stephanie chase you and put her over.
I mean, when we talked about this earlier in one of the chats, Adam did have a really interesting suggestion.
I probably put the belt on Sami Zayn.
No, it was six women in some sort of structure with a roof.
No, see, to be honest, I don't mind the shout, by the way.
Because they're all feuding each other.
I think it's time to accept this. There's the Hell in a Cell has been outgrown. I think it's time to accept that. TKO's, it's never going to pass a TKO safety inspection. They're never going to run that.
I do think it'd be interesting to see what they will do with Bayley's character. Like,
maybe Lyra as well. I totally forgot about Lyra.
Yeah, because Lyra's obviously like, well, that's got nothing to do with me, bud.
But Lyra it does seem like for the title.
It seems like they're kind of setting up Bayley to eventually snap, basically to make herself go crazy rather than be made to go crazy by others, which I'm kind of youthful at. I think that could be quite entertaining.
I just think it's so important for Stephanie's future, because even if she wasn't going to win the title in Paris, it would have been a really good test for the international audience, managing that, how the reaction went, and then they could probably have figured out, right, this is the time we'll pull the trigger. They've lost that, I feel, because the feud can't be built. At best, she's going to get a 2 Raw build. At worst, she's going to find out who she's facing 5 days before, which I think's entirely likely, because I think you're right. I think if Naomi's out, we're going to have some sort of multi-women qualification type series once again.
Yeah, I think that there's an easy pivot for them. And that you put the title on Rhea because the next PLE is in Perth anyway. So just pull her title win forward, put the belt on Rhea, push Stephanie's title win back, let her win the Royal Rumble or the Chamber, and just stick her in a title match at Mania. Just preserve her push. Because it's the most straightforward pivot. But personally, I would put the belt back on Io and actually let her defend the fucking thing.
That's what I would do. And I think I've said
this
this
program. I ask him maybe.
So I was going to go with this because Ross, you mentioned this earlier when we were having the conversations pre-pod that I've said for months I think that Rhea will go to SmackDown. I think she wins the title over there, protects Tiffy, builds potentially a future Mania feud. The reason I'm coming on this, as you mentioned, the sort of tease with the Kabuki Warriors and Io and Kai and Asuka. We've wanted Io and Asuka for a while. It's why I don't see Io leaving Raw. And I feel as though if you're saying that we all know that it's Rhea or Io who will win that title again at some point. Whoever one doesn't has to go to SmackDown because they can't keep fighting. They can't keep fighting each other.
It can.
But until Bianca or Liv Morgan's cleared, one of them will have to be in one of the title pictures, and I feel as though whoever one doesn't win it goes to the other show. So if the Kabuki Warriors are going to have eventually an Io versus Asuka feud, which we are all here for.
Oh, that'll be great.
Does that impact this Naomi injury or lack of medical clearance? I think is the official term that they've used. Has huge repercussions, not just for Clash in Paris, but for this newly announced PLE Perth. Because we're all
newly announced PLE is a Saturday night's main event. Who are you kidding?
Is it?
No, it's not been announced as Saturday night's main event. It hasn't been announced as that. But we all know what's happening.
Ultimately, the Rumble and Mania are all going to be affected by. Well, this is a 3-week layoff for 9 months,
however long. Like it is inadvertently done the thing that we all love around the WWE is that whilst it is nice to be able to look at the parts and go, okay, these two should move to X and then this person should then go, and we predict it, and then we all like give ourselves a little pat on the back and go, good luck. We actually prefer it when you're like, there is a lot of question marks, but in a good way. And I think ultimately that is what this might create. Like, I hope she's okay, and if she is pregnant, good luck to her, and hope everything's all good. But this might accidentally be like one of the greatest things that could have came out of this scene, because you're right, everything was all a little bit stuck and rigid. And there's a chance now with just one or two moving parts and a few decisions made here or there that I don't really think they can necessarily get that wrong. The entire picture for the next, 6 months, year, could really benefit from it. So I'm really interested to see where they go from here.
Perfect way for her to drop the title as well, because I didn't like the thought of her dropping the title in the ring. I don't like the thought of that.
Yeah, it would have felt a little bit rubbish, wouldn't it? Unless it was like a 5-star match or something, but you go, well, fair enough.
The only thing I will say is I need to find a different way of doing it, the same way that Becky did it. She gifted the title to somebody, basically. But it'd be interesting to see how they book it, because our next opponent isn't a particularly fluent English speaker right now. She's getting better, but she's going to obviously there'll be a segment on Raw. And
if it's a vacation, I would be sitting here saying even like a multi-woman ladder match or something where you could protect people and have.
I want a championship scramble. I've been saying this for so long. I want just put 5 women in the ring, let them up in each other, and whoever's last wins the title. I'm here for it. Roxanne Perez, let me book it. Roxanne Perez, Maxine Dupree, because she's getting a bit of love. Bailey, Steph Kerr, and somebody for NXT. Soul Rooker. Book that. There you go. Championship scramble. Book that. It's booked.
I'm down.
Aye, it needs.
Maxine wins the title.
I think the other thing as well is that we've not talked about is she was at Raw last night, which suggests it's not something that's really significant enough that can prevent flying or travelling, because obviously they were in Quebec. So,
which makes you think it's probably not concussion or a head injury.
Yes, that's where I was going with that. So obviously, hopefully Naomi's all right. Hopefully,
I hope she is pregnant. I'll be happy to see another Uso in the world.
Ooh, guaranteed world champion.
I know. Sign him in a lifetime contract.
Jesus Christ! But to be fair, twins run the family, didn't they? So you never know how many going to pop it.
Many Usos.
Let's not make the same mistake that Raw makes every week. But we opened with a long promo again. It was what it was. I'm looking at it and I'm like,
I'm actually bored about speaking about it. Do you know
but
that?
These are the Raws where it's needed. When you're doing a reset, these are the Raws that they should be on. But just because it happens every week, I'm fucking sick of it. I don't want
the worst thing is that the same people that open the show with the promo close it with a tag match. Like, it's just.
Yeah, you get the weird ones where like Punk's music hits, the whole place marks out. But then Punk's music hits 2 hours later. Go back and watch it. There is not the same reaction because you've already seen him. Like, you just know if you're going to have the big promo, you kind of need to then have the match immediately after that. So just don't open with the promo. Have it. The problem is
August out in the dirt sheets. What's slated to main event Monday Night Raw comes out on a Saturday afternoon.
I know.
So we're just sitting watching the opening segment, and you're going LA, CM Punk. Where's the other person? Oh wait, I already know who the other person is, so let's just bring them out. And you're like, what's the point?
Right, that's fine. That is what it is. This is what I'm going to open up to you first, Daz. Well, after I do my speech on this, what's next for Dom? It wasn't necessarily something straight off the back of Raw, but it's something that I just wanted to have a conversation about because it's definitely clippable.
Mm-hmm.
we anticipate that AG is probably going to win the IC title off him because it's a safe pair of hands and a safe bad booking, and if they decide to reverse the decision, then Dom gets a big feud win at the end. But he's so over and he's so good, and like he's going to Triple A, and I guess some of us are discussing whether El Grande Americano is going to help him win a title or something like that's going to happen. But this guy, what did he do with him for the next couple of years? Because I don't see a path to a world title for the next 2 years for him because of who's in the main event and who we think will have a chance, despite the fact that in my head, he 100% should be a champion in the next 2 years. And
to cut in before Daz starts, the WWE have literally just tweeted whilst you were speaking around Triple Mania 33 and how they have the exclusive YouTube streaming rights for it, and he is on the poster. Surprise, surprise.
Mm-hmm. He's in the world title match.
He's walking as world champion.
100 billion%. Billion%. What I think is next for Dom, I briefly touched on this last week, but I didn't want to go all out and make this prediction. Having watched Monday Night Raw, I can wholeheartedly say that Dom and the El Grande Americanos, plural, is going to be Dom's stable. And once Dom has won the AAA title, they will unveil themselves as who they actually are. It's unlikely that Kaiser will move to AAA with him. That's probably not a move that makes sense. But it's a guy in a mask. So when they unmask him, it just won't be Kaiser. I think that what's next for Dom is you need to prove he can carry a brand, which AAA is the perfect one for him. He's already fucking over as it is. It's just about how he carries the world title. Can he be chased? Is the question. For the next couple of years, for Dom, I think the things that make sense the most to me is a Money in the Bank win or a Royal Rumble win. I would not be angry if Dom wins the 2027 Royal Rumble and loses at WrestleMania. I don't hate it. I think it's the perfect build to him winning a world title 2028.
It's testing him at that
probably
level.
the right way to go about it. So if you want to book him to win the Rumble next year, lose at WrestleMania, pick up the briefcase, then win his title late 2027, early 2028, I'm into it. I think that's a good booking for Dom. I just think that with talent like that, however he is, it's important they don't miss the boat like they did with Sami Zayn, like they did with LA Knight, because these two guys were so over. I don't think they're on Dom's level. Personally, I think Dom surpasses them both, personally. But Dom also has age on his side.
I was going to say that.
Randy
also.
Orton's the blueprint. Stick the world title on him while he's young. Make him a name in your industry, and you will have a world champion for 10, 15 years. Him, Braun Breaker, are probably going to carry the Fed moving forward. So that's probably my path for Dom, would be build him to be believable. Don't just stick him in a title match and have him roll him up with the tights and give him a world title. Build him to be a main event star. He's already got the aura to speak to the young team, but book him to be believable. Don't just let him roll somebody up. Let him win a Royal Rumble. Let him go and win a briefcase. Let him hang with the main eventers properly and establish him as a proper main event talent. So Dom Mysterio 2028, book that shit.
I mean, we've been on the Dom hype. I've been on the Dom hype train since he frog splash Brock Lesnar.
Me too. Even when he looked ridiculous and he was teaming with Ray, I was a massive fan.
Even before that, when he was just helping Ray, the guys got it, and I just think if he was not in a company where you've got 2 world titles, you should have a spot for him in that picture. So,
100%.
Right, Roscoe, the Sami Zayn Vortex.
I'm glad you're taking
the vortex that just keeps on spinning.
So Sami Zayn in Quebec, fair enough. It's Rusev. There was a DQ. There was people getting involved. I don't really know why MFT were there, to be honest. No need for them to be in Raw. Rusev bores me as well. Do you have any comments on this segment? Because I couldn't be arsed with it.
I do have some thoughts that is maybe like going towards like, is it the start of something that might build to something Survivor Series-y because you've got them appearing on Raw? Like, am I clutching at straws by saying that? Let us know in the fan mail link, let us know on TikTok if I'm talking utter nonsense. But I think that's just me trying to find something from this. I don't really get it.
Big statement pile of shit is what it was.
It was just a little...
Rusev off the TV. The guy brings nothing to the table if he's no way fucking Sheamus. Just keep him off TV.
It's not a good look when a wrestler appears after being gone for so long that I think some people did want him back, right? Not necessarily us, I'm not saying that, but there were people out here that were like kind of intrigued to see him back, what he could do, and then when you even have that first debut, there was like nothing, and then since then there's been nothing. Aleister Black kind of falls into a similar scenario, but I'd argue he's a wee smidgen above.
They put him on the wrong shows. You should switch the show, put Black on Raw, and put Rusev on SmackDown, and he might be a bit more believable.
Rusev on Heat.
In fact, Ross, you think Rusev in NXT if you want.
No, but I think
bring him down.
Right. As soon as it became pretty obvious a year and a half ago that Aleister Black, Malachi Black, was coming back to the E, he disappeared for AEW TV. Rusev / Miro disappeared to AEW TV about halfway through his bloody contract because they just did nothing for him when he was there enough. Like, no one really missed him when he was gone. Rusev Day was good. It was fun. It was funny. But
was that Rusev or was that Aiden English?
That's where he peaked. And like, that's not a world champion gimmick. It just hasn't never been a world champion gimmick in WWE.
Yeah, it's just a mid card thing, which is fine.
fun.
It can work, but it's not. He's not grabbed that attention. He's not kind of like got
He
you
can only
hooked
be
again.
described as a Vince McMahon guy. It's probably the way I would describe him. He's
Potentially.
He's the kind of guy
He has
Vince
to
would
look,
strap
though.
a mid-card title. That's what I mean.
Aye.
He looks... He's like Ryback. He's a Vince McMahon guy. He's not actually very good, but he just looks like a guy who should have a belt. That's what it looks like.
Aye. Or
See,
if
they put him in a
standing beside
lineup
him,
beside Dom Mysterio and AJ Styles and all that and just said, one of these guys is the world champion, do you think? They'd probably point at the big beefcake and go him. Well, actually, he's the worst of the lot, so...
Which leads me into my next point. That this part of this whole segment, we didn't have Io versus Roxanne, which is good because we say all the time in this show that you don't have to win matches necessarily. You have to be good in matches to go over. That's what Roxanne and Julia did when they came up as a tag team. Do we have a problem, Daz, in the at the moment with non-clean finishes, especially on the weekly shows?
1,000,000%. And it's just a byproduct of they have too many people and not enough airtime. So to give people TV time, they're just coming out into matches and getting involved because it's like Sami Zayn's a perfect example. You've got SmackDown in Vancouver or Montreal, wherever they were, in Canada anyway, and you just stick them in with Solo because you want them on the card for a cheap pop. That's what you need. It's the exact same with these people. We've got people who should be on the show in some capacity, but we just don't have enough time for them because we've got another 25 people who should be on the show in some capacity, which is why you need to cut the likes of Rusev and that off of TV because they're not as good as other people who deserve the TV time. Which is why on that TikTok, when I spoke about who was underutilised, Chelsea Green, 1,000,000,000%. I actually think Chelsea Green should be in the SmackDown Women's World Championship picture. I think she is amazing. And Penta on Raw. And it probably will give you a nice segue into the main event picture on Raw that we're going to talk about to close out the show because I firmly believe that Penta should be in there over two of the three guys that are going to be fighting Rollins for the title. I believe Penta should be in there ahead of one of the other two.
I think it's a good segue. I'm going to just, before we dive in, just say that I thought they did a good job making Maxine look particularly good against Becky.
Yeah, definitely.
The comeback. So, be interesting to watch that. We'll not talk about it in detail tonight, but we'll see how she develops in the next few weeks and maybe dedicate some time to it. But the two questions I've got in the main event to ask you guys is, and we'll come to you because I think Daz and I are going to go on the same page here based on the segue he gave me. Where is Roman? Is question number one. Because he's front and centre on the branding for Clash in Paris. Now there is a rumour that it's going to be him versus Bronson, which
I mean makes sense after Bronson's promo.
Makes for the Shell of Allah. But the other question I've got is exactly what Daz says. Like, you know what you've got with Jey Uso. You've got two huge faces in Punk and Knight anyway, and I think Knight at least deserves it after the whole issue with the work. Why not try somewhere else in the fourth spot, as whether it's Penta or whether it's somebody else, but to try something different? Like, Jey Uso's not going to win another world title anytime soon, and probably never. So it's a waste of a spot to be. If you want to put back on him, you know what you've got with him. He's going to come out with you for 2 minutes. Spear, super kick, Uso splash, sheet again. Give you one of these, put glasses on, and then walk through the crowd. That's what he's got to do. So we know that, and if he wins the title again, great, we'll enjoy it. But there's a chance to do something different here that I feel as though they've bottled it, to be honest.
It does kind of feel that.
Jey Uso's there to eat the pun.
I think so. It's very tunnel vision, almost, in the way that they're kind of looking at the main event there. They're just kind of going, well, it's beating these guys, so let's just keep these guys there. I don't necessarily dislike LA Knight being there because of the fact that if they ever did decide to pull the damn trigger, even though they're far too late anyway, because he's still in that scene, it's very believable if they then do it, because you can quite rightly go,
Are you talking about the LA Knight World Title trigger or the LA Knight heel turn trigger?
Either, because they did tease something there. They teased something in that segment where it was actively kind of going for faces, and you're like, oh, hold on a minute, that's interesting. And they've got enough of an angle that if they turn the Seth Rollins injury work, let him shoot on it with a mic one night. It's probably the easiest way you can do it, right? It's a nice way of doing it, and the heat would be amazing because everyone loves them. Therefore, those are the best ones to turn. But yeah, other than that, I didn't really get that.
We've got enough, and we've done enough for the heel that tells the truth character. Kevin Owens is the best at it. Drew McIntyre's good at it.
Oh yeah,
it's been done. LA Knight can do it. Great, brilliant. But yeah.
Is there anyone though kicking about though who is the heel that tells the truth right now?
Yes, there is. He's not been on TV, and he actually returned on Raw on Monday night through a back door. They've got the perfect heel in The Miz, they just don't book him anymore because he does all this ambassador shit. Right, and I'm not advocating that Miz should win the world title. I'm absolutely not advocating that.
Therefore,
but this is my issue, right? With LA Knight, and it is my issue is that you've got Penta on Raw, who is over, has been involved in the Seth Rollins Jey Uso fucking palaver, although it didn't really make sense, although none of that really made sense. We're booking a guy who's contracted to SmackDown in the Raw main event picture when you have main event talent on Raw that can't get booked. Now, the reason I think LA Knight is in this match is I think LA Knight is the fourth man in Seth Rollins' stable. I do think we're going to get the LA Knight heel turn. I think LA Knight will probably lay out Punk and let Rollins pin him. It makes sense that that's the guy. Maybe LA Knight was shooting us as well with his reaction. It's all one big work.
It's possible.
We've said for a while it needs a fourth guy. It needs somebody else who can talk. LA Knight is the perfect person for that. So I just don't see what other sense it makes to have Knight booked on the Raw main event picture when he's in SmackDown, when you've got guys like Penta and on the Raw roster who can't get a look in on the card. It makes no sense to me.
So the obvious thing is obviously LA Knight moved over the week or two before that SmackDown lost an hour, so fair enough, right? They had to do a wee bit of shuffle for timing, but I'm honestly, I think if LA Knight joins Seth's team as the fourth member, I think that's a fucking huge mistake. I'm with you.
But I think it might be the only way he gets a world title, though.
See, I think I'm actually looking at it as the opposite. I'm thinking it makes sense, but would the payoff be that he's the guy that turns on Seth or Seth turns on him and he beats Seth down the line? Like, is that a Mania main event? I don't think so.
Me?
I don't know, by the way, because I think I like
LA Knight. I think he's great.
I think Knight could. I just think they've maybe missed the boat on him. But I think this is the perfect way, if you have missed the boat, to bring him back in, put him in the Sami Zayn spot, but pull the fucking trigger this time instead of not putting Sami over against Roman. Put Knight over and give him the title. Otherwise, his involvement in this world title picture is pointless, because if he doesn't win it this time in some capacity through this feud, he'll never win it.
I think once we do this shake-up, we should really do a segment, whether we do it as the extra segment, on how we see the build to Mania going. Because that's what, in my head right now, I'm thinking to myself, if we're really not going to get Roman versus Seth one-on-one this year, are we really pushing that back? Because at some point, Roman's just going to say, I'm off to Hollywood and that's me bye. And we won't get it. And I feel as if we don't get that match, that is a huge, huge issue.
You probably will get it.
And I mean, the rumour seems to be that Punk's going to take on Cody at Mania and not Rollins, which I'm also not a fan of, because there's only one of the guys going to get booed, and it's not going to be Punk, I don't think, anymore. It's just weird. I just find it very, very weird. You've got three faces, but the only outcome, spoiler, is that the Seth retains, really. it's just a bit boring, isn't it? Really, it's just boring. What are we even doing here? What is the plan? And I get that part of this is for us to fancy about, and part of us is to challenge and question and figure out why things are why. But I'm struggling with this as your main event. I'm particularly struggling with the left field decision to throw Jey Uso on. The match didn't need, I'd prefer triple threat without him than to fail forward.
I just think that he's one of the most over guys in the company, so they're not going to leave him at a European tour.
Aye, we're going to get a huge.
He's going to get a pop.
He's going to get a huge entrance, 30,000 people in that arena.
He'll be first in the ring for that match, definitely 100%. So.
And fair fucks him because he's getting himself booked. That's all that matters, isn't it? He's getting booked to main event.
Yeah,
up there as one of, if not the top merch seller right now.
He has been this year, aye. Yes. I believe last week Brock Lesnar was 1, 2, and 3 for t-shirt sales.
We will talk about Brock on a later date. We spoke about him enough last week.
Aye. I think that's us. I think that's I think it's been a back to a normal scheduled week. We can wrap up there and we can start processing this whilst we go and record.
You can all look forward to our new mini show, which will drop. Just to reiterate what Saunders was saying, this week we are going to talk about our favourite 3 non-Big 4. Peter, there's a lot of numbers in that sentence. So yes, keep an eye out for that one dropping. Likely this weekend, possibly next weekend. But what I'd like to do before, because I like this idea of throwing it out for suggestions, right? And I would like to give you a suggestion based on my twittering, or
tweetering.
Xing doesn't quite sound right.
Don't like that.
My Xing. I seen
sounds
a
like dodgy
post
Saturday night, doesn't it?
online, and it was catered towards NXT actually, Ross. I don't know if you've been on our X account recently, but it was tailored towards NXT in particular, and it was the NXT Mount Rushmore. So who would be your NXT Mount Rushmore? So that's one we can work on, but I was just going to put out a plea for the mini show. Give us suggestions, fire them in. Let us know what you would like us to rank.
Favourites, least favourites, rankings.
Yep.
General ranting for 10 minutes or something.
Nonsense.
WWE
Anything you wanted
things.
really to chew the fat over on the new mini show. But yeah, that will drop probably this weekend.
We're still calling it a mini show because we've not quite decided the name yet.
We're in arbitration. I have filibustered. There's a lot going on.
That's it for this week. Daz?
Let's hope next week's wrestling is better than this week's wrestling.
Let's hope we get some wrestling next week. Roscoe?
Pleasure as always, gents. That was a nice and snappy 1 hour. Hope everyone at home
It's only because you
enjoyed
need to keep
themselves
us
as
in
much as I
check. I
did.
mean, him could have went another half hour there.
Oh, easily.
Also because...
I'm letting my notice, I couldn't now.
No, fair enough. I could have, but yes, that's us for this week.
Aye, take it easy everyone, we'll catch you next week.